Hi and welcome back to my channel. My name is Roxanne and tonight we're going to be making chili. It's a very easy recipe to make. I've been making it for a very long time. Just a few ingredients. It's great if you want to have like for Sunday, or if you want to have it on during a weeknight and then save it for lunch the next day, because the leftovers of this is very good. And it doesn't cause for a lot of ingredients, and it's all in one pot and it's good to go. There's nothing special to it. I just have diced tomatoes, chili beans, kidney beans, and today we are using canned mushrooms because they didn't have any fresh ones at the store with COVID. And then fresh onions, and then I just made a quick chili powder mix, and I am using ground pork to make it, and you can use whatever meat you guys like best. This is just what I happen to be using tonight. All right, so we have the pork cooking, so we're just gonna break that up to make it into smaller pieces for it to cook. And then I am gonna add a little bit of salt and pepper. And then we'll add the onions. So I used a half of a medium-sized onion and diced that to put in there. And then you're just gonna cook that with the meat that you choose. Again, we usually use ground pork or sausage. Sausage is really good in it, but I didn't have any on hand. So while that cooks, I thought I'd kind of tell you a little bit about me and my upbringing. Let's see. I am a military brat, so growing up I was with the military. My dad did 32 years, so it's pretty much my entire life. We lived all over the US and in Germany as well. And it's a little different going from the military world to the civilian world, because when you walk into the military base, it's like you're entering this other world that not everybody has access to, but it's not a whole lot different than the civilian world. Unless you're a military child and you decide that your family wants you to go to a civilian school and they ask you where you're from. It goes a little bit like this. Oh, hi, where are you from? Well, I'm military, so. Okay, so where are you from? Well, I was born in Washington State. Oh, you're from Washington. No, I lived there for 2 years, and then we moved to Florida, and where my dad was stationed there. Oh, okay. So where else? I said, well, the longest place I lived in was in Germany, was for 4 years. Oh, so you're fluent in German? No, I'm not. I went to a military school on a military base and lived on the military base. So, no. My family's originally from Missouri, so I guess I'm from Missouri. But how long have you lived in Missouri? Oh, 6 months. That's pretty much how it goes. They're always like, their look's very confused, and you're kind of confused too, because you're like, wait, where am I from? I'm kind of from nowhere. So I grew up going to 20 different schools, 2 different high schools. We started off in the Air Force, and so I have lived, let's see, we moved from Washington State to Florida to Alabama, I think, we lived in Missouri for a little while my dad was in different training. And then we lived in Tennessee. And then we lived in Germany. And between all of those, we moved a little bit to and from Alabama for different training and schoolings that my dad did when he would do for 6 months or so. And then I graduated high school in Missouri. That was a culture shock. I went from living in Germany to going to a military Dodge school to a Catholic private school. That was an incredible culture shock for me because I'm used to military kids. You're used to those kids coming and going. They're new, they're moving away. You have a constant influx of students coming in and out at all times through the year and every year. And so when I went and came to school to go to this Catholic private school, everybody has known each other since kindergarten. And I didn't know any of them from kindergarten. And so they're like, we don't know about you. So I didn't make a whole lot of friends there. I was very quiet. I went to school and I went home. I had a few friends and I'm still friends with them to this day. So it's really cool. But it was very different. I had one girl ask me how far of a drive it was to Germany and if I spoke Germany. So that was very interesting. And then, but yes, so growing up military, I actually loved it. I have made some of the most incredible people that I've ever met, and I'm still friends with a lot of them today. I'm closer to the friends that I knew in Germany when I was 13 through 17, better than any of the friends that I have here in the civilian world. And because I didn't have those long-term relationships with a lot of those kids, but in the military, I did. Even though we didn't live together for a very long period of time, you learn to really appreciate those years that you're with people because they know what you're going through. They know what's going on. They see the other kids coming in. They see your dad leaving and coming. Their dad is leaving and coming. They're specialized in something. Other families are specialized. You still have that where it's a little bit more, it's not really the rich kids versus the poor kids. It's more of the status. If you're enlisted, if you're a captain, if you're a colonel, or if you're a warrant officer. So that's how a lot of those kind of went, where depending on where you lived on the base and how you kind of hung out with people. My best friend and I lived on the same part of base, so we had this other part of the base that was about 20 minutes from the actual base, and we became friends because we were told we had to be, but we didn't really want to. But we're still friends to this day, and we still talk quite a bit. But it's just a whole other world, living in the military versus the civilian. Now my children, they have grown up civilian, but we have still moved around a lot lately. So their dad was military, so when they were younger we did move around a little bit, and then after him and I divorced, my parents were stationed in Germany, so I moved back to Germany to live with them for 4 years. So I lived in Germany a total of 8 years, and I worked at the military university there, for UMUC, University of Maryland University College, the European Division. And so I did that for 3 years. 3 years, because the other time I lived there was just for a year while my ex-husband was in Korea. And then after our divorce, I moved back with them. And then when it was time for my daughter to go to school, we moved to Iowa to take care of my grandmother. Well, I was only there for 6 months, and then we moved to Missouri, and we lived in a really tiny town, and I couldn't run from there fast enough. So then I took the kids and we moved to Arizona. And then my dad really wanted us to move back because he was retired from the military. So we moved back, and I've been back since 2013 or 14. We've been living in Missouri since then. My dad passed away 5 years ago, and so I'm here with my mom and my 2 children. And I want them to have that experience of living with children from a younger age and up, and building those relationships, because they're not military, so for them to be constantly moving is a lot different, moving all the time versus as a military child moving all the time. So yes, we are there. And then I have the pork all done cooking, so what we're going to do is we're going to add the diced tomatoes, the kidney beans, And I leave the juice and everything in there. And then the chili beans, the mushrooms, and the chili powder. You're gonna just mix all of that up together. And this is, now if it's a little too, if it's a little too thick for you, you can add some tomato juice, which is usually what I do, but I didn't have any on hand today. So you're just gonna stir all that together and then let it heat up to almost boiling. And then you're going to let it simmer anywhere between 10 to 30 minutes. Just depends on how much time you have. If you're a working parent and you got to come home and you have to hurry up and make dinner, you might only let it simmer for a good, 10, 20 minutes. That's fine. You can eat it as soon as it's done heating up. I do like, when I do have time, I do like to try to let it simmer for a while, and then, so I will simmer that and put the lid on so it can simmer. And when it's all done, there's several ways how you can eat chili. Everybody knows this. Chili is such a staple in a lot of households. So I tend to, my favorite way is with Fritos. That's my favorite. That's the only way that I'll eat it. You can also do American cheese or shredded cheese with onions, green onions, and sour cream. That's how my mom likes it. The kids, my son just eats it plain, but I love the Fritos. So let's get started. All right, as you can see, it is all done. It turned out really good, and I have my Fritos, and I am gonna go enjoy my dinner. Thank you for coming and talking with me and listening to my stories about my military childhood. Now this is my own personal story. It could be different for everybody. For me, it was pretty much, for the most part, it was a good experience, but not without its sacrifices. My dad was gone all the time. A lot of military families, there's a lot of sacrifice and a lot of uncertainty. But at the end of the day, for me, it represented safety, adventure, home. Whenever I see a military base, to me, it represents home. And then there's just, you build these incredible relationships with these people. And it's always, and it lasts for a lifetime. Facebook, when I first came out, was amazing because you were able to reconnect with those that you had lost contact with. I moved every 6 months to 3 years, and that was hard. But I would not change any of it for anything. And not everybody's story is like mine. A lot of them, there was a lot of sacrifice, a lot more sacrifice. There was family members that didn't come home. And I had to start over every 3 years. I had to make new friends, and I had to make, it's that first day is always the hardest. You are with your friend, you're at a new school, and you come and it's lunch hour and you have no idea who to sit with. So you're very vulnerable, but you build those relationships and you rely on each other a whole lot. And it's what has made me what I am today. I'm very thankful for those relationships, and it's just been an incredible part of my life. And I wish the kids could experience that to an extent, not the sacrifice part of it, my mom was a single mom for half of our life because my dad was gone. But I know she wouldn't have changed it for anything, and neither would I. But thank you for coming to join with me while we make this chili, and I will leave the recipe in the comments, and I hope you enjoy it. If you want to hear any more detailed stories or the fun that we had, so much has happened between now and then. I'm 36 years old and graduated high school and built my own life on top of that, and I would like to take you guys on that journey with me through food and recipes and laughter and everything that there is between. So Thank you for joining me, and I hope you enjoy this recipe.